Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. So I've been thinking a lot about subfactions in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, something of which that was introduced in Warhammer Fantasy lore and also in the tabletop too to make certain factions within certain races more unique than others. Now subfactions technically are in the Total War Warhammer series. RLS Assault Spite has some Sartos in Free Company. It's not a lot, but it's supposed to differentiate her from the other Vampire Coast factions. And of course, other factions have some special traits which are supposed to make them a tad more different to the others of their own respective race or faction. So for example here, we have Morathi, which spreads a lot of chaos corruption as there are hints that she is a Slaaneshi follower. And Frog, King of the Trolls, also has some traits which focus around building monster-based armies. Unfortunately for Aranessa, her unique units, the Free Company, really aren't going to change her playstyle that much. It's actually kind of rare to recruit them as, of course, they kind of break fairly easily, and when you're playing with a large majority of undead units, having a basic, very low tier human is just no point. You're not going to really get anything new from that playstyle. With regards to any other factions that didn't have a unique unit, they mostly revolved around traits to make specific units more powerful to give you more incentive to recruit them. The thing is that most of these units are still very much what they are. There's only just a minor buff on them, so they're not really that good to justify keeping them until, say for example, late game. The tabletop, on the other hand, had a rather interesting way of creating subfactions. Earlier editions would have specialized armies, like for example Morathi in 6th edition during the Storm of Chaos would have access to a special Slaaneshi force. This of course was a combined roster of little bits here and there, Slaaneshi Demons of Chaos, some Chaos Warriors, and of course Dark Elves. It was just a little mix here and there and it made the army incredibly thematic. Then when it came to 8th edition, which stuff started kinda dumbing down, some factions would then have the ability to turn a higher tier unit into a core unit, effectively removing the need for certain units. Frog again is the perfect example where he made Trolls a core unit, meaning that he didn't have to recruit any Chaos Warriors or anything, and you could center your army around monsters. It was not competitive in any way, shape or form, and it was mostly for thematic play. That's mostly because Games Workshop had some rules implemented which favored more hordes than monsters. Though it worked incredibly well, say for example for Lord Skrolk, where you could take Plague Monks as core. On the tabletop, Plague Monks were absolutely amazing. Now, on Total War, we started getting some proper subfactions. Admittedly, Creative Assembly did amazingly well when it came to the implementation of Drycha. Her playstyle revolving around trees and monsters is actually really fun, and it gives you a different style of play when it comes to Wood Elf gameplay. So if Creative Assembly have managed to do this well, why am I talking about this in a video now? Well, there are two reasons. One, the fact that Creative Assembly have done it well and it should be embraced more when it comes to future DLC or FLC lords. This was again proven by Rakaf's playstyle, where you could just focus on pure monsters. So it's looking like Creative Assembly are indeed keen on continuing this trend. But the second reason is because some former content can be made more relevant and therefore give more incentive when it comes to going back to play older content, especially on the new Mortal Empires map for Warhammer 3. The reason I'm saying this is most races from Warhammer 1 have already received their rework. After the Beastmen get theirs reworked in 2 weeks, then all we need is Norsca and the Warriors of Chaos, which we know are on the pipeline eventually. And unless the races and factions from Warhammer 3 are so radically different from 2 and 1, I don't think it's going to require another rework overhaul for every single race. The reworks are there to incentivize people to go back to previous content, purchasing it if they don't have it. Obviously the benefit of the Total War series is that Game 1 transfers to Game 2, and Game 1 and Game 2 will then transfer to Game 3. Provided you have the relevant content purchased, which works incredibly well. but let's use the Dark Elves for an example to further push what I mean in my video. The Dark Elves play incredibly well, they've got their own unique mechanics, and yes, some of it is pretty much not very inspired, and the slavery mechanic does need a rework, but we can assume that that's going to get fixed up when the Chaos Dwarfs eventually get added in. But as a whole, the Dark Elves play very well, and keep in mind I'm just using the Dark Elves as an example. I could have used any other race, but this one feels the best. So say in the future a Dark Elf vs Chaos Demons DLC gets released, whatever it could be and whatever characters it could feature. Already with that you're getting the Dark Elves, so there's not really too much incentive to go and play as say Morathi. Meaning that if you don't own the other games, especially if you're not too keen on the whole Mortal Empires 2 map, Immortal Empires as many people are calling it, there's no need to go back as you will eventually play the Dark Elves anyway. Of course, in the Twisted and the Twilight, the way around this was that Creative Assembly introduced an FLC Legendary Lord, which was only available if you owned all relevant content. And that worked out very well, seeing as the character was only available in the huge Mortal Empires map, but it is likely that any new FLC Legendary Lords will probably feature in the main map for Warhammer 3. This is because that area is likely going to be quite empty, and let's be completely honest here, when it comes to stuff like the Mortal Empires, when you look towards the areas controlled by the Dark Elves, it's already pretty full. Lustria too is incredibly full. How would this work eventually unless we're getting a full world map for Game 3? And even then, it's still very full. There's not much point adding in FLC characters to those locations as it's already a massive slog, so why not add the FLC characters to the far eastern portion of the map, but then have a rework centered around an already existing character. Again, Morathi's the perfect example here, where she can have a true Cult of Pleasure rework, making her focus around a mixture of Dark Elves and Warriors of Slaanesh. This further works because the Dark Elves themselves, and again these are just an example, other races are very much the same, but they don't have that many missing characters left. It's unlikely that an FLC will also focus around Dark Elves too. So what better way to incentivize people than a complete rework to one specific faction? This doesn't only have to work for Morathi this way, think about future content. Should Nagash ever get implemented, a rework could be brought in for just Ark and the Black of the Tomb Kings, as really the Tomb Kings don't need any sort of update. They are in fact one of the best DLCs that Creative Assembly have ever released. But assuming if Nagash ever gets released, he would have his own unique stuff, which would in turn benefit Arkan greatly as a way to differentiate him from the other Tomb Kings. Right now, it's just the basic vampire count units, and it doesn't really bring too much to the table. So something like that would then give players incentive to go buy the Tomb Kings DLC, though if you don't have it now, I do suggest picking it up whenever possible, maybe during a sale, because like I said, it's one of the best DLCs they've ever released. These are just some ideas I have because I want to see more uniqueness brought to the table, especially for some legendary lords who do deserve it. Like I said before, the rework system works really well, but with the fact that not many races do need a rework, maybe just a specific lord or two, so much could be done. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we'll start a bit of a discussion. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.